What's up, Trojans? It's tank time. Giants have gone down 2 more games on the season. They're now 2-7, and there's really no hope for the rest of the season. I was hopeful that at least this season the Giants could put on a strong performance, get up to 7 or 8 wins, and show that something could happen next season. If not, make a fringe playoff run like they did in 2022. And, again, show progress going into next season. Show that Daniel Jones cannot be a completely garbage quarterback, and show that this team has a solid base that can be built upon in the future. However, I actually wonder if this could be better, because now that the Giants are in clear tank territory, and this was further shown in the game today, where I honestly believe that the refs have something against the Giants. The refs are in on the tank with the Giants. There are way too many calls that the refs have made this season where it's so close in the game that penalty right then and there makes the difference. And I think the best call on this was the Steelers game last week, Monday Night Football. The Giants are punting the ball, and the Steelers player absolutely commits a roughing the kicker penalty, tackles the guy, nails the plant leg, punter's on the ground. Easy call for roughing the kicker, 15 yards, first down. However, there is also a penalty on the Giants, so it would have ended up being offsetting penalties, which is kind of insane that something as simple as it was like a false start in a legal formation or something dumb, versus a roughing the kicker personal foul for 15 yards versus 5 yards would have been offsetting. That's insane already. But what happened is that penalty wasn't called, and the Steelers player ends up returning the punt for a touchdown. And referee calls in-game make a huge difference in the game. But in this case, it ended up being a game-changing play, and it ended up resulting in a Giants loss on the game. Now, the Giants ended up being bad after that as well, but it's one of those things where the game ended up being very close, and that's one of those calls that made a huge difference early on. And the refs actually looked like they threw the flag on that play when it happened, then got together and picked the flag up on that because they were throwing flags for whatever the Giants penalty was. And one of the refs threw it a bit later. Actually, 2 of them, I believe, threw it a bit later, watching it. And it timed up perfectly with the guy nailing the punter. The second that contact was made, there were flags thrown. I'm like, oh, yes, that's obviously what that's for. But no, it wasn't. There needs to be a serious review on refereeing in the NFL. It's absolutely pathetic. But it is no excuse for the Giants' pathetic performance as well. Same thing happened in the Washington game today. There were so many bad calls by the refs that don't make up for a Giants' bad performance as well. The most obvious one being the Darius Slayton offensive pass interference call that should not have happened at all. But then you also have the fact that that drive was the culmination of a Malik Neighbors first down that should not have necessarily been a first down. He was about an inch short on a 4th down because the Giants have horrible route running where, early on, the best example of this is there's a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 3 earlier in the game, and the tight end runs the route at the line of scrimmage, catches the ball, gets tackled immediately. Why is that a route on a 3rd down on your own, 30 or 40? You're not going for this on 4th down. Run the ball for the first down. What are we doing? It's just pathetic how this game goes for the Giants. And that's the case here as well. So many bad calls by the refs. Another horrible one. Daniel Jones fumbles the ball, clear fumble. Could have been ruled as an interception and probably been a pick 6 if the Washington player caught it. He probably should have. It would have prevented a scandal here. But he dropped the ball, and the ball bobbles off his foot, his hands, whatever. It goes back 20, 30 yards. Devin Singletary is about to pick the ball up. I can't emphasize this enough. Devin Singletary sprints to this ball, is about to pick it up, and the ref adamantly blows the whistle to blow the play dead. You could hear it on the TV if you have your volume up past 1. The ref absolutely starts blaring the whistle, and he lets up and doesn't pick the ball up. It is so obvious by his action that is the case. And the Washington player runs, grabs the ball, and runs it into the end zone. And so the play is blown dead and ruled a forward pass, and that should be it. Then they review it. It was obviously a fumble. Yeah, Deion Jones fumbled the ball. That's what he does. He's a turnover central over here. I'm not going to defend that. Deion Jones has been awful overall this season. 2 decent performances, that result in wins, and maybe a couple other games where it's not 100% his fault. Don't excuse a 2-7 record as a quarterback of a football team. And even in both those wins, can you honestly say it was the offense that got those wins? We aren't talking about 40 to 38 games where the Giants won. Deion Jones has not been good this season, so of course he fumbles here. And it probably should have been Washington's ball, yes, but it's weird when you call it the way you call it because you blew the play dead. I don't know the proper remedy for this, but I don't think that was it. I don't think that should have been the remedy. Like, oh, yes, we blow the play dead, which causes the player not to pick up the ball. So what we're going to do is just give Washington the ball, even though the play was blown dead before the guy picked the ball up. That makes no sense to me. There needs to be a very serious review on refereeing in the NFL. There needs to be some guy that just sits up there and actually has jurisdiction over the game and can overrule very bad calls. I don't know how you remedy that situation in the Washington game, but I know how you remedy that situation in the Steelers game. You need a guy that can overwrite no calls on penalties and have them get called and have them be enforced when they're that obvious. Plays like the NFC Championship game with the Saints and the Rams should not happen. I'm a Giants fan, and that penalty still pisses me off to this day that happened. I've mentioned it in multiple videos. Absolutely pathetic. Now, and back to only the Giants, their performance was also pathetic in this game. We are looking at a team trying to look very competitive, maybe so just the head coach and the general manager can keep their jobs while also being able to draft their quarterback. And honestly, I think that's the best scenario for the Giants at this point. If the Giants are able to look somewhat competitive, end up with a very bad record, keep their head coach and their general manager, it looks like a solid rebuild. You get the quarterback that you need, and you can turn this around. Look at what literally the Washington Commanders have done this season. They're 7-2 now. They were horrible last season, and I don't think they have that good of a team. They just now have a quarterback that doesn't fuck the entire game up for them. Jane Daniels is a solid quarterback. No hate there. He made some solid throws when he needed to. He stood tall in the pocket when he needed to. And he evaded very quickly some pass rushers when he needed to. He had a solid performance in this game, and that's the difference between a good team and a bad team. It's the modern-day NFL. It all comes down to the quarterback. You have a better quarterback, you have a better team. That's just how it is. And the Giants need to find their better quarterback because it's becoming more and more obvious that Daniel Jones is not it after what feels like a million years with this guy. A million bad years with this guy. We had one good season in 2022, and how'd that season end? Oh, right, a pathetic loss to the Eagles. I don't care what happened otherwise. Just bad. Giants are just bad. Already looking to the offseason, this, what should be early in the year, right? If the Giants even won this game, it's like, all right, let's give them a chance. 3-6, it's redeemable. If the Giants had won any of the last few games, 3-5 is redeemable. Yeah, so many chances this season. The Giants were 2-3 at one point. With how pathetic the Giants were in the first 5 games of this season, they were 2-3 at one point. That is a very redeemable season being 2-3. Now, they were 2-3 with a tough schedule ahead. So if they at least got to 3-5 or 4-4, it could have made something of the season, but no, 2-7. And now, yes, I believe they're 2-7 because 3 games should be flipped, yes. But doesn't excuse how bad the Giants have played otherwise. Both things can be true at once. It's just not the Giants' season. It's just not. Absolutely pathetic performance all around. Team needs to improve. What else can I say? The defensive line had no sacks today. The defense was not good today. Not good at all. Defense could have given up 35 plus, almost 40 points easily. I guess they didn't quite do that. Wow. The offense was able to get a ton of yards because of an amazing run game. Tyron Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary combined are much better than Saquon Barkley was with the Giants even in 2022. That combo was amazing today. If it was able to be utilized fully, which it wasn't, because the Giants had this amazing run game, then Daniel Jones fumbles the ball and puts the Giants down instead of up. You can capitalize on an amazing run game if the game is tied or up a few points all day, every day. But you can't do that when you're down 2 scores at halftime. That's not how that works. Giants needed to be up, and they couldn't do it. Giants have a great run game. Credit to Tyron Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary. Both of those guys ran very hard today. Daniel Jones even had a couple nice runs. That's solid play calling. But then you go to pass the ball, and that's where it all falls apart. And then you go to pass the ball late in the game, and you get a couple cheap points, some cheap touchdowns, just by the defense needing to look different, because that's all there is. That's what you do, right? You want to just stop big plays, and you're willing to give up some plays as a defense late in the game when you're up like Washington was. So the Giants are able to fight back and get something that makes the game look close, even though Washington really just dominated today. Absolutely pathetic performance by the Giants again. Not much else I can say. Didn't do great against the Steelers either. Again, credit with the Steelers game to Tyron Tracy Jr. And the defensive line did much better in that Steelers game, of course, as well. But today, the defensive line was non-existent. I don't remember a single sack happening. I don't think a single sack did happen. There was a great run game on the offense. Passing game was incredibly mid. And the defensive performance was just bad overall on top of the defensive line performance being bad. Giants just need to get their shit together. This is not it. And there's no point in getting your shit together this season. You might as well wait till next year at this point. What are you going to do? Win out? Be 10-7? Yeah, right. So it's just it for the Giants season. It's game over. We're looking for the draft. Hopefully some good quarterbacks are coming out this season because there seemed to be some very good quarterbacks last season. Williams isn't bad, and Jane Daniels looked really good today. So, there were 2 guys that could have been drafted, and hopefully that's the case with the upcoming draft class. That's all there is to hope for at this point. We're tanking. That's it. Season's over. Goodbye.